I want to talk about the M2 money supply and the price of Bitcoin. I've seen a bunch of charts online and they all scream hopium, like the bottom is in and this is the mother of all charts that we need to be looking at when I'm talking about the M2, and this will lead everything and everything is going to be fine. This is total BS in my opinion, and I want to show you why exactly and why all of these charts are flawed and why you shouldn't trust them pretty much at any point. Let's just evaluate one by one several things, and let's just evaluate this specific chart that we're seeing here on Twitter. And this is very common. You can see also Raul Paul talk about this quite a bit. So let's just put some simple analysis here. First of all, the history here on this chart is from 2023. So we have only about 2.5 years of price history here, and this has the adjustment, I would say, of 10-week lead. So this means that the theory here is that the global M2 moves 10 week in advance of the price of Bitcoin. And when you line it up like this, it looks quite good actually. You see that the price of Bitcoin, which is the red here, follows very closely the price of global M2. However, even on this chart, although it's lacking a lot of history, and imagine this is like buying a car that is, let's say, 10 years old. So you bought it in 2000. It's made in 2015, and you see its history only since the last 2 or 3 years, and it looks perfect. And you say, "Oh, that's a great car." However, maybe in the history of 2020. It's got a few crashes, it's been totaled a few times and so on, so on. But still, the last 2 years, the owner maintained it very well. This is how it feels. Like we don't have the whole story here. But even if we take this chart and we look into it carefully, you'll see that yes, price has been respecting, and somewhere around here in the middle of 2024, M2 started going up as well as the price of Bitcoin started going up. And then obviously when it topped out, you could see, and this is the first discrepancy I want to show you, that the M2 topped out at around, towards the end of 2024. And the price of Bitcoin went sideways, I would say, for months here. You can see in this area right here. And this was the range of death pretty much. While the M2 was pretty much collapsing. And now we see that we have this blip, and honestly, like when you look at a proper chart on Bitcoin, this doesn't even match, the price of Bitcoin really well, to be honest. So it's not even an accurate representation of the Bitcoin price. But then you see the price collapsing, and like this here, it's like it's going up while Bitcoin is going down. So again, the chart is not even accurate if you know the price of Bitcoin. And you're claiming that this pattern, it says that it's already bottoming and the M2 money supply started going up, so the Bitcoin price will also start going up. However, the relationship, it's almost picture perfect here in the past, and now we're just waiting for something to happen for price to, any moment, price should be starting to go up, since money supply has already been going up while actually Bitcoin has been going down. So what is going on here? Why is this discrepancy if this model is so accurate? And this is another discrepancy here that I wanted to show you. But even if we go to a history that it's a little bit more complete and doesn't have this deviation, I'll call it, from 10 weeks, I would show you this chart here. So this chart shows from 2013 pretty much. We have history of Bitcoin and the money supply. And here you can see in red is the money supply in this case. And then Bitcoin prices in white. So here you can see that price doesn't really match. Even in the past several months, I would say, you'd see that money supply has been going down from, September of 2024 until January, so about 3.5 months, while Bitcoin was on a tear at the same period of time. So this is a 3 to 4 months difference, not even 10 weeks if we use the previous model. And then while the money supply has been going up, the price of Bitcoin has been going down. And technically what they're claiming is that pretty much on the red part, let me just try to zoom this a little bit more here so you can see it. Okay, maybe like this. Okay, so basically what people are claiming, that on the red here, we are here right now on Bitcoin. So pretty much this should be the bottoming pattern that will lead us to going much, much higher in the very near future. However, this, even if this matches, let's say we match this perfectly, and this is the situation, although I already showed you that it isn't. In order for the entire model to be useful, this needs to be the case for not only the last few weeks or months, this needs to be the case for pretty much most of the chart's history. And really, it isn't. So this is the previous bull run here, between 2021 February, which was the first top, until that's November of 2021. So almost a year, let's put it here, a year. While Bitcoin was pretty much chopping around and doing nothing, the money supply was growing significantly. So from March, you can see here the red, I don't know if I can select only this one, but you can see here the red right here in this area on March 29th. The money supply is 97 trillion, and right at the top of March 2022, which is pretty much a year later, is 103 trillion dollars. So it has been growing, and at the same time the price of Bitcoin topped out twice in this period and already went into a bear market as money supply was still growing. And just by looking at this, you can really tell that there's absolutely no correlation, even from the previous cycle. And even if we take the bear market after that, okay, at some point we had some correlation. The money supply was going down right here in September of 2022 and onwards, and Bitcoin price was going down. So money supply bottomed out at end of October 2022. Bitcoin price bottomed at January 2023. So you would say that, okay, this matches the 2 or 3 months that they put in the other model, and maybe this was really the bottom. However, after that, we see a period of chop on the money supply, and we see an increase from the bottom and a period of slight increase here on the Bitcoin price. I'm already mixing this up. So maybe in this period right here, we have some correlation. But again, when it comes to the top here, I would say absolutely zero correlation. And just one more example from the previous cycle. So this was the 2018 top. The 2018 top on Bitcoin was on December 2017. And the top in the money supply was on, March of 2018. So we were already in a bear market for crypto when the money supply topped out. And everybody that are using this model are claiming that usually the money supply is late. No, it's early actually to the price of Bitcoin. So in this case, what should have been the case is that we should have kept growing until April of 2018 and then started collapsing with the money supply somewhere in the middle of 2018. But this wasn't at all the case. And you can see here that like the price history is, I would say, not very representative, even in the previous cycles. Although here, let's say Bitcoin was not a significant asset, but the last couple of cycles, you can see that we're not at all matching. And the whole thing reminds me a lot of the stock to flow model. This was very popular like 2 cycles ago when exactly the pattern was followed. Like we reached, this related obviously to the halving. And once the halving was reached, and then we had a blow off top above this line here, which was the stock to flow ratio. But the previous cycle, we didn't blow off top of it. Like we had a double top here, and just on the second one, I remember this very well. When everybody was expecting Bitcoin to continue higher, it just fizzled out and went into a bear market. So right here, this was invalidated, although it was working perfectly. And same obviously for this cycle, we are nowhere near to the stock to flow ratio. Maybe we'll get there. Let's see. I wouldn't mind if I'm wrong on this, but in this instance, I would say this entire model has been validated. And I think the M2 like supply, whatever you want to say, model is working only for a single period of time, maybe in the last several months, although again, not perfectly as I showed you. And people are now blasting off, oh, this is the mother of all charts, and this will happen to the Bitcoin price and so on. So this is a little bit like, how can I explain it? This is like a saying that the market will go up. Yes, stocks are going up over time, crypto is going up over time, money supply is going over time. Yes, everything's going up, and that just makes sense. But don't tell me you can make conclusions that you can base your investments on based on the money supply or the stock to flow compared to the price of Bitcoin. I think that's very impossible. And I want to show you something also, and to prove my point. This is a screenshot from Raoul Paul's video. He's talking also about the M2 as I mentioned, and he's a little bit more specific. He's every time like we have a breakout of the M2, we have a breakout and continuation higher to the Bitcoin price. Sorry for the quality of this, but I couldn't find a better resolution. And right now he argues that we have this massive breakout that already occurred pretty much, and now the price should start going higher. Technically, I would agree with that. Yes, the prices will go higher as if you have a long enough time frame. However, in the short term, you could experience a lot of volatility and you could be far away from the actual bottom. And let me show you this. Even on this very last breakout that he's pointing out to, this is middle of 2024, let's say, and money supply has been breaking out, but you can see here on Bitcoin price, it was chopping around, doing nothing. At least this chart, the price on Bitcoin of this chart is more accurate than the previous we've seen. But Bitcoin already made another bottom after the breakout here, and you can see very clearly. And let's say you bought here somewhere around 60, or was it like close to 70, and then price went to like 60-ish. You wouldn't have good time, and technically if you held enough, you'd be going up and you'd be making money, sure. But before that, there are a lot of fuckery that could happen, and I believe the same situation could occur here, because we still are facing recession fears, and one very key factor hasn't happened that I will finish the video with it in a bit, but we could still go much down compared to what we are right now. And you can say technically, yes, the bottom is near, but the bottom could be another 20% down, for example, before we start going up. So the question here you want to ask yourself is, first of all, do you want to trust those type of, I would say, kind of a horoscope chart? It's just, I don't know, somebody selling you snake oil. Or you want to be patient and look for other signs that are mostly in the Bitcoin chart itself. And I've talked extensively about how to analyze this and what to look for a potential bull market. So I could see this happening. And also another example I wanted to show you from the previous cycle, he's showing very specific breakouts that actually work in his favor, I would say, on this chart. Yeah, you could argue here in 2016-17, there's another breakout that also played out perfectly. However, somewhere in here, when we are topping out, we had a breakout somewhere. This was in 2021, so March, April of 2021. Money supply was breaking out here, yet Bitcoin was going down in this period. And then obviously we had another breakout here. As I discussed, we had money supply increasing while Bitcoin was already topped out and it was in a bear market. So again, a little bit of a bias here, in my opinion, on the money supply thing. So I would be very, very careful. And one key point that I wanted to mention is that money supply has been increasing, but this is the global M2. If we look at pretty much the most important money supply, that's the US money supply. And I think that's a very, I would say this is more of the chart that you want to watch, and more of the chart that it pretty much doesn't tell you anything when you're looking at it compared to the Bitcoin price. And this is what I'm going to show you. So here, this is from 2021. I'll show you the history even before that, but let me just do this because it has a little bit more data. Let's put it this way. So the blue line is the money supply of the US, and pretty much follows the other trend that we saw somewhere here. So we had a dip and we're already kind of breaking out here at these levels. And then you can see in red the Bitcoin price. Again, the same pattern. So money supply topped out much later than Bitcoin price in the previous cycle. And right now, it seems like we're falling very closely. So since money supply has been growing, so you could argue we're already in this period that Bitcoin price has been going up with the money supply going up. And now we are expected for maybe this to break out for another leg higher and go much higher. However, the US hasn't started really printing money or quantitative easing. So yes, other countries have done this, like China, the Eurozone probably is starting to do this, and many other economies are doing it. But the US hasn't started printing money. And it will probably start printing when things get worse. And if things get worse, the price of Bitcoin and stock market will get worse. So that's the key thing here. Yes, I agree that if money supply starts increasing, assets in general will start going up. That's just simple inflation. However, before that, we might be in for some pain. And that the bottom might not be in. So very key difference here. The US hasn't started printing, and before it starts printing, we might see quite a bit of pain. And this could take several months. As you could see in the other models, there are at least 10 weeks of lead on the global M2. So if we're, let's say, some kind of worst case scenario, if we're in some kind of a recession and US starts printing, this means that Bitcoin and stocks could be in a bear market for several months. So it could take us till the summer or end of this year to get out of it and then start pumping. And if you start buying just because somebody told you that the bottom is near or the bottom is in, you'll be in a lot of pain, trust me. And not only this, but if we look at money supply overall for the US, it's just up only. Like only the recent 2 or 3 years we've had pretty much the same levels of M2. And yet Bitcoin has been doing its own thing. Like if you compare those two charts, there's nothing in common. This is just up only. Bitcoin's technically also up only, but a lot more volatile. So what happened here in 2018? Like money was going up all the way through the bear market of crypto until 2022, pretty much when 2020, when COVID hit. So I wouldn't say this is a though inaccurate way to measure or to ingest hopium on Twitter or whatever else you want to take it from. The reality is that the only way to at least somewhat know when the bottom is in is to learn technical analysis and to have some basic understanding of the economy and how it works and like when money is printed and so on. Anything other than that, it's just people trying to get views or maybe charge you even for services that cost a lot, monthly subscriptions and so on. So that would be my advice. Don't follow blindly. Obviously, don't read into this too much. And most importantly, make sure you know how to make your own analysis and to understand what are the dynamics of the specifics and the specifics of, in this case, the Bitcoin price action. And that's everything, guys. If you found this little rant useful, let me know.